First tonight, your local election headquarters bringing you live coverage from New Hampshire. Good evening, I'm Shannon Heggie.
And I'm Mike Montecalvo. All eyes are on New Hampshire, where tomorrow voters will make their choice in the presidential primary a week after the caucus fiasco in Iowa.
President Trump was greeted by thousands of supporters at a rally in Manchester. This is the president's first campaign stop since his impeachment acquittal last Wednesday. Meantime, Democratic hopefuls trying to establish themselves as the front runner, and that spot right now appears to belong to Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders.
For more election coverage, let's send it out to Eyewitness News anchor Danielle North, who's live in Manchester tonight with more. Hi, Danielle.
Hi, Mike and Shannon. Well, before a crowd of almost 12,000 supporters here in Manchester, New Hampshire, President Trump really firing up that crowd, and he wrapped up his remarks with the embrace of the New Hampshire motto. Many of you have heard it before. It's live free or die. He talked about how much he loved that motto, and he certainly did not disappoint the crowd that came out, many of them waiting for hours out in the rain here in Manchester today. President Trump taking the time to, of course, blast some of the Democratic presidential hopefuls, calling the Democratic Party the party of high taxes, high crime, and also open borders. And already, President Trump is looking ahead to November, where he says he's confident that Republicans will be able to keep the White House.
Republicans are energized, that we're united, and that 9 months from now, we are going to take back the House of Representatives, we are going to hold the Senate, and we are going to keep the White House.
We can also tell you that Senators Lindsey Graham and Rand Paul joined the president and Vice President Pence for that huge rally at the arena, which, by the way, is only about a block or two away from where I'm standing. Now, in the meantime, the Democratic presidential hopefuls taking full advantage of the final hours on the campaign trail here in the Granite State. We saw Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders out and about, Senator Elizabeth Warren with two very different events. Warren with a sort of a town hall style in front of about 700 people, where Sanders in front of a group of about 7,000, where they heard his final pitch and a little campaign concert. In the final hours on the Granite State campaign trail, candidates with a connection to New England are trying to finish out strong. Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren appearing before a crowd of 700 supporters at a lively town hall in Portsmouth.
About saying no more to the lobbyists and the lawyers who've taken over our government.
Just a short time later, Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders at one of his 4 campaign events of the day, continuing to push his progressive message. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez helping to launch a massive rally in front of thousands at the Whittemore Center. Sanders not stopping for a moment, even with some of the most recent polls showing him still in the top spot in New Hampshire.
Tomorrow you have a choice. You have a choice about going forward and voting for a campaign which will defeat Donald Trump.
And after a strong showing in Iowa, Mayor Pete Buttigieg crisscrossed the Granite State, appearing at several locations, including Plymouth State College, even garnering some star power with a reported visit from actor Kevin Costner at one of his campaign stops today.
Where your only choices are between a revolution or the status quo.
So now for these candidates who've seen really a full slate of campaign-related events for several days in New Hampshire, it might be time for a little bit of rest, but just a little because, the polls open bright and early tomorrow morning at 7 a.m.
Well, thousands of people coming out. Looks like they're having a great time, but it counts tomorrow, Danielle. What kind of turnout are they expecting?
Well, certainly tomorrow is what counts, and the Secretary of State here in New Hampshire says he's expecting a near record turnout. They're expecting about 420,000 Granite Staters to vote in the first in the nation primary election. And I quickly have to remind our viewers that the first in the nation votes are actually cast in a tiny little town called Dixville Notch. There are typically about 12 votes that are cast right after midnight. And by the way, the last time in 2016, it was Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders that took the Democratic side, and John Kasich won for the Republicans.